Do not settle for the crumbs. You should have the whole cake, the icing, and the cherry on top too.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Crumbs episode 2. Alice, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm going really well. And one of the reasons I'm going well is because we've had a discussion the past 24 hours about your nickname.
Yep.
You've been nicknamed Caro. Now, for the listeners, your surname is Wilson.
Yep. One
of the best in the business in sports media, female, Caro Wilson. You're unhappy with this nickname. What's happening?
I just don't approve of it. I just think there's many other ways we could go with this. My name is hard to nickname. I'll give you that. It's an impossible name to nickname. But I'm sure we can come up with something other than Caro. You know,
I think you should feel respected.
Mm-hmm.
Caro is mostly a well-respected journo and sports media guru. I love it. Caro's sticking for me.
Okay.
We might.
I feel like I can't shake it now.
Yeah, there's not really any room for you or anywhere else to go. So Caro it is. And if the listeners have any feedback on any other nicknames,
please send them through.
Send that through and we'll read them out next week. So it's Alice Wilson.
At this point, the bar is on the ground with Caro, so endless opportunities, people.
Yep, love it. So come forward with your ideas. Of course, we're the Crumbs. We're talking all things women's sport from not only here in Australia but across the world. And Billie Jean King's a bit of inspiration for us, but the latest on the list of amazing women in sport, Caitlin Clark, and I've got my fresh T-shirt on. I know you're a bit jealous.
I'm so jealous. I need to get onto that.
Yeah, we might sort that during the week and get you locked in.
Yeah.
A bit of a rundown for today. We're going to talk a little bit about some silent winners in women's sports. So maybe some stories the listeners haven't heard about. You're going to give us a wrap of Aussies in the WNBA.
Yes, I will.
We're going to talk women's sports bars, which I think is a brilliant topic.
Yep.
And then you're going to talk a bit about the Paralympics and females at the Paralympics. We're going to talk about the one to watch today in an AFLW context.
Yep.
And then before we finish, we're going to talk about our flag contenders and our bolters for the AFLW season that kicks off tonight with a big debut for a great up-and-coming coach, Daisy Pearce.
Exciting times.
Exciting times and more on that. But we're going to get straight into it. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the 100. I don't know if you were following this or not. I'm a massive cricket follower, men's and women's. The 100 is England's T20 competition, so it's their WBBL. This event started on July the 23rd. It was about 4 weeks. We had 18 Aussies playing in the 100, which is the most we've had since this is the 4th edition of the tournament, or was the 4th edition. Meg Lanning, Annabelle Sutherland, obviously Ash Gardner, our highest earners. So for 4 weeks... let's call it work, playing cricket. They made about 95,000 Australian dollars. Wow. So it's not a bad kitty.
Gig.
Not a bad kitty. And it was pretty amazing. The Welsh Fire women finished the regular season on top and they played the London Spirit, who won the final in a thriller. And it was one of our Aussies. It was Georgia Redmayne, who opened the batting with Meg Lanning. And I think this is cool in itself because Meg Lanning, famous name in women's cricket around the world, let alone here in Australia, she went out for 4. She made a measly 4. Sorry, Meg, but not your best day.
Got to be honest sometimes.
You do. And Georgia Redmayne had a day out. She scored 34 off 32 balls and really set the team up.
There you go, carried.
For victory. So the London Spirit won. I wanted to shout out this because not a lot of people follow it, but 95K for some of our top players for 4 weeks, and then obviously 18 Aussies playing in that event, and a massive event because they have a men's 100 and a women's 100, but a really cool competition. So if you didn't follow that and you're interested in cricket, check that out next year. So they run it annually July and August. I wanted to shout out to one of the people I'm following greatly, and we talked about Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Rookie sensation from obviously the Chicago Sky Star, I guess, and She's at the moment ranked number 1 for rookies. Caitlin Clark's ranked 2. I'm not quite sure which stats they're looking at, but we'll dissect them.
I think it might be the rebounds. People who know the WNBA will know why Angel is up there in the rebounds.
We'll dissect the stats and we'll dissect the meaning of all this over the coming weeks. But I think she's a star.
Yep.
She signed a big endorsement deal with Reebok just in the same way that Caitlin Clark signed with Nike straight out of college, which was awesome in itself. And obviously they knew that those two companies knew they were going to be the next big thing. But in no surprise to any of us, she's just signed a big deal with Reese's, the famous Reese's Pieces, as a brand ambassador. And they've just released an apparel collection, which you can go and have a look at online.
Love the colours.
It's quite really weird, actually.
Like a very out there jumper, but
go and check it out. It's really interesting, but it's quite on brand with her. And the other cool thing for Angel is she's just announced she's going to release a podcast, which I'm pumped about.
That's
like
exciting.
I started looking up, how can I listen to this? Like this is going to be awesome because she's a bit of an interesting, quirky character.
Yeah, she's got a personality, and we love that.
We do. And so it's a collab with Shaquille O'Neal's production company, which again is another sort of cool layer, I guess, that's added to it. That's happening. And if we're talking endorsement deals and talking brands, there's no bigger brand, I don't think, than Nike.
No.
And Nike are getting on board. I did see Naomi Osaka back at the US Open this year. She's just signed a deal. They've released a deal with a fashion designer. So some new clothes have come out. But what I thought was awesome in the news this week is Nike's announced this really cool vertical swoosh release in European women's football. Puma, Reebok, Nike, some of those bigger brands and Adidas are sort of fighting in this innovative technology space when it comes to their apparel and it comes to their link to sort of pro sporting organisations and pro sports. They've released this limited edition. It's called the Third Kit Edition. So the third kit for a bunch of different soccer teams, and 3 of them are English Premier League women's sides. Yep. Liverpool, Tottenham and Chelsea are all going to wear this vertical swoosh kit that's basically embracing the diversity and the growth of women's football. So it's amazing to see Nike on board with this and sort of a driving force in women's sport, but also the innovation in how they're putting together their merch and their apparel.
Love that idea.
I thought that one was awesome.
That is an awesome idea.
And then the last one I want to touch on, Coco Gauff, tennis star, 2023 US Open winner, hasn't had the best 12 months since then. Still, one of the favourites, but she announced this week her second signature shoe with New Balance. So another athlete who's pushing the boundary in women's sport. So not only has she got one signature shoe, she's got 2.
She's got 2.
But if you want to take it further, Alice, she has become the latest Weeties box superstar.
And that's when you know you've made it, everyone.
You've made it. If anyone follows North American sport, I'm not saying women's sport.
Just sport in general.
When you make it onto the front of the Weeties box, you're written a bit. Yeah. Right? And Coco is on the front. And I just think this is super cool for an amazing female athlete to be on the front of the Weeties box, doing her thing in her New Balance shoes, and making the dollars.
Oh, 100%.
It's amazing. They're the things I noticed during the week. But you want to talk all things WNBA.
Yes, our Aussies in the WNBA, as you know, this season, we have quite a few dominating there. Obviously, the WNBA's restarted since the Olympic break. It's back into full swing. Anyone who knows the WNBA knows they play pretty much every day. Like, I don't even think they have rounds. It's just constant this. So even when you do a weekly recap, it's so many games. So I thought I'd just highlight some of the biggest moments from this past week involving our Aussies. And I thought I'd just note, unfortunately, Beck Allen has not made a return to the court since obviously she had to sadly pull out of the Olympics. So she's not yet to hit the floor with Phoenix again. I think she's rehabbing in Phoenix. So hopefully not too much longer till she's back out there before the end of the season. But we had a few Aussie clashes this week. Starting off with the Washington Mystics versus the LA Sparks, which is obviously Jade Melbourne versus Steph Talbot, two of Australia's who pretty much dominated the Olympics, both of them. But the Mystics won by 6 points. Jade's team got out on top. They both played some pretty solid minutes, around 20 minutes each. Steph Talbot added 6 points to her name. She's not had probably the best season with LA Sparks. I think before the Olympics she struggled to find her feet, but I think post-Olympics she's gotten a lot more game time. So that's good for her.
That's awesome.
Obviously she came off her ACL from last year, so she's working her way back up. Another Aussie, Alana Smith for the Minnesota Lynx. They played the Las Vegas Aces last Saturday, which everyone knows, very dominant team. And the Lynx actually came out on top by 7 points. And Alana had a massive game with 15 points. So she's really, making her mark, I guess, this season with the Minnesota. I think she's really thriving with that team. We also had an Aussie showdown on Tuesday, Seattle Storm versus Mystics. So Ezzy, Sammy Whitcomb versus Jade Melbourne. And the Mystics beat Seattle by 2 points. But Sammy and Ezzy both had great games in double points. So our Aussies just keep continuing to do their thing over in the WNBA. Unfortunately, Christy Wallace hasn't played a lot of minutes with Indiana since post-Olympics. She wasn't actually on the team list for the past 2 games, so I think she might be out injured. So, fortunately, not as many minutes for her, who started the season strongly, but hopefully she'll be back in no time. But yeah, that's a little bit of a weekly recap.
We'll try and update you guys too, listening about some of those injuries and the returns. And Beck Allen's obviously a really important player who is going to do massive things. So following that rehab stint will be important. So we'll update everyone on that. Great recap,
I
Caro.
will also just add that today it was announced that the Opals, their new world ranking in the FIBA.
Yes.
Second. We've moved up to second.
Yeah, that's brilliant, isn't it? What a great result for basketball in this country.
So the bronze medal at the Olympics definitely boosted us up the ranks. So, yeah, awesome. Congrats to the Opals. Just awesome to be back on that second rank.
It is.
Love to see it.
Great stuff, Opals. Well done. I want to talk to you about something that is just super exciting. I need to book a flight. I think we need to take a study trip to Sydney.
100%.
Because for those of you listening who don't know, there is a women's only, well, when I say women's only, there is a women's sports bar opening in Sydney, Oxford Street, Sydney, and it's about to open in 2024. It's called the Ladies League. And they are going to play nothing but women's sport.
We love to see it.
How cool is this?
Reserve me a table for every night. I will be there.
We were talking off air.
Yeah.
We wish we could go back in time and create this idea.
Yeah.
And then be part of making it happen, because this is so amazing.
I still think we can. Melbourne still needs one.
We need a name. Maybe our listeners can send us a name. But I will say, so for the listeners, for a bit of context, 2 years ago, the Sports Bra, one of the most amazing business names of all time.
Iconic.
A sports bar for women's sport, and they saw a gap in the market. They were trying to, there were supporters of women's sport going to bars it's in Portland. They were going to bars and they just couldn't find anywhere to watch the women's soccer or any women's sport, to be honest. And they're like, well, how can we solve this problem? There is a market for it. Interest in women's sports growing. There's a lot of audience. What are we going to do about it? Let's open a bar and let's give it the best name of all time.
I know. Nothing will ever top that name.
I don't think it will. So
Amazing.
The Sports Bar 2 years on has become such a raging success that they're in discussions to expand in the US and potentially globally, and for it to become a franchise. So maybe we can.
I think we can franchise the Melbourne.
Yeah, let's do it.
I mean, surely.
Any investors listening, if you want to put your hard earned behind this, Alice and I are willing to take the lead.
Oh, 100%.
And we will make this a success.
Yeah. I was going to say I'll leave my uni course to do it, but maybe I'll graduate and then
I think you're going to not do that.
I'll graduate first, then I'll do it.
Great answer. So this Ladies League, just to finish off here, Oxford Street, Sydney, about to open before the end of 2024. They're going to play AFLW, State of Origin, NRL,
all the good
women's
things.
Basketball, surfing, women's soccer, worldwide soccer, including our domestic league, but also the Matildas games, of course.
Love it.
And this is going to be such an interesting watch. I can't wait to see how this sort of goes. And they're not just supporting women's sports. So they're bringing in I was reading up about this during the week. They're bringing in and supporting a women's brewery. It's called Reckless Brewing. 2 of Bathurst's female-led brewers. So this is sort of a support of women across the board. And obviously the sport's a big part of it, but it's run by 3 women who've invested in this and who are driving it. And it's just going to be one to watch, and I'm pumped about how this is going to end and how we can get involved.
Yes. I think it starts with a visit to that one.
Yeah, I think 100%. That's a great idea.
100%.
So, moving on, tell me about the Paralympics.
Paralympics. Obviously, the Paralympics kicked off this week. It's already started. It's in full swing, so always exciting. Someone that I think we need to mention, I think it's a non-negotiable, is Madison de Rosario, who was actually the flag bearer for the opening ceremony. And she's probably one of Australia's most successful women Paralympic athletes. This is her 5th Paralympics.
Wow.
So she made her debut back at Beijing when she was just 14.
That's
only
insane,
14.
isn't it? Yeah.
It's these kind of stories that you just don't hear about that. You're like, how is this not, front page? So she's a wheelchair racer, specialises in long and middle distance.
Yeah.
Won 2 gold medals at Tokyo. So just an all-round successful athlete, and I think the flag bearer was just so well deserved. I was very happy to see that she was announced as a flag bearer. And a little fun fact that I didn't know this before today, and many people probably don't, but she's actually won the New York and London marathons, just to add to her
I did not know
list of achievements.
That's just amazing, isn't it?
So these kind of stories, you just need to be brought to the forefront.
Yeah,
but
they do.
Very excited to watch her compete in Paris. Will be so exciting. Hopefully she can add another gold to her collection.
It sounds like it's on the cards.
Sounds like it's on the cards,
doesn't it?
Definitely. And yeah. Tune into the Paralympics, everyone.
Tune into the Paralympics.
Tune
Everyone
in.
should be watching the Paralympics and supporting those amazing athletes. But in particular on this show, we're obviously got our arms wrapped around all the women involved.
Yeah.
So good luck to all the Aussie athletes participating in the Paralympics. I wanted to bring it back. So I said we're going to, be watching this Ladies League Sports Bar, but really our segment every week is the one to watch.
Exactly.
And this week I want to create discussion with you about
A debate.
Daisy Pearce. Well, I like debating. Everybody, you know that.
Yep, I do.
Our producer knows it. And the people watching, the 4 or 5 of you, thank you for tuning
Shout
in.
out.
You know I like to debate. So this is what I want to throw at you, and I haven't given you much notice of this, so this will be an interesting discussion.
Thrive
But
under pressure.
Daisy Pearce, today is D-Day.
Mm-hmm.
She's about to coach the West Coast AFLW team for the first time. What I want to know is, and what I want to understand from you is, what are West Coast doing? So West Coast AFLW club, disarray, people leaving left, right and centre. They were horrible for most of the season, let's be honest. They were deplorable most weeks, even with the best new player in the league, Harley Reid. What are they doing? They're looking for a new coach. They've literally searched far and wide. They're talking to any man and his dog. They'd probably hire the dog. They've got the next best coach in the room. She's there. Daisy Pearce is the next coach ready to go. Why are we looking for a man to coach this team when Daisy Pearce could do it? She's there.
Well, I do agree with that. Why are we looking for a man to do it? But the thing with Daisy is, Simone, time. Time is a big factor here. She hasn't even coached a game yet. She actually hasn't stepped on that field and coached as head coach an AFL or an AFLW game yet. She would have after tonight, but...
So I want to throw this at you.
Yeah,
time
please do.
is what? How much time does she need? She's a premiership player at Melbourne, premiership captain at Melbourne. respected media personality and commentary-wise, like one of the best strategists and one of the best minds. She's done an apprenticeship at Geelong. She was working with Scotty Danger. She was there when Joel Selwood was there. Eddie Betts was down there as an assistant. She's worked with some of the best footy minds in the game. Mm-hmm. They all think she's great. Everybody, male or female, talks about her as if she is one of the best football minds in the game. What have West Coast got to lose, really?
Well, here's the thing. Out of all the points you just said, first of all, unfortunately, media personality and captain and playing career doesn't necessarily make you a good coach. It might. We don't know that for sure yet. In terms of her stint with Geelong, it was 6 months. If you look at most of the AFL coaches today, the men, you look at their careers and they probably assistant coached for several seasons, several clubs. They've gone through the process. None of them have really been, chucked straight into the head coaching role. So I just think that if you're yet to coach any game, AFLW or AFL, I don't think going straight into a AFL coaching role next year would be the right choice. No matter who you are, I love Daisy Pearce. I think one day she will make probably one of the best coaches. But is that day today? I don't think so.
Well, it's not today because she's coaching AFLW today.
It's not next year either, though. So that's the thing. It's not next year. I think even I would look at it as, will she be getting set up to fail?
Yeah, and I get that point. I'll take that into consideration, and I get that. What I would like to suggest then is, and I take into account all the things that you've said, and maybe some of them are somewhat right. However, if you're West Coast, at least wouldn't you be saying, all right, we've got this potentially amazing contemporary coach who sees the game in a different way. We need to do something different. Put her in an assistant role. She's in WA anyway. I would vouch for that. Put her on that progression to move into a head coach role, 100%. Even if it's not next year. I think she's the next AFL coach in waiting. Yeah. Maybe it's not next year. Maybe it's not the year after. But I'm putting money on it that she will be the first female to coach an AFL club.
100%.
And I hope it's sooner rather than later. And I hope we're not putting a time limit on it. That's all I got to say. We're moving on because we do want to talk about AFLW. Yeah. And I want to talk a little bit about who Caro
Jeez, and we need to get rid of that name. That
think can win the flag. So we're going to put it out there straight off the bat. I want to hear from the listeners. From my perspective, there are only 3 potential flag contenders this season. North Melbourne, the Mighty Crows, and the more recent brilliance of the Lions. They're the 3 teams that I've picked. You are suggesting that Geelong can win the flag.
Okay, well, first of all, let's just rewind for a sec. Wanted to be a bit unique, didn't want to just copy all your answers, so I was like, well, I'll bring in a new perspective. I think Geelong, upcoming young, they're in there. They are in, like, they've got their toes in that premiership race, I think. They might not be, the leading 3.
Alice, there's bringing a unique perspective and there's being realistic.
I'm being very realistic.
Geelong may not win more than 3 games this season.
I don't think that's right.
They're not winning a flag.
Well, the thing is with AFLW is it's a very, very different game to AFL. 10 games, that can mean you very unpredictable. Very unpredictable. And that's why I'm putting in a brave shout and I'll back Geelong. I am not a Geelong supporter. Go the Pies, but I will back Geelong in this just to prove I'm right.
So I'm going to make a big statement here. Okay. For anyone who watches the Sunday Footy Show with Tony Jones, great Channel 9 journo, if Geelong win the premiership, I'm going to wash windows on the corner of Warrigal and Batesford Road for an hour at the conclusion of the 2024 AFLW season. There is no chance at all Geelong can win the flag. Adamant.
I think sometimes it's unpredictable, AFLW. It really is.
Well, we're about to find out. And
We
we're
are
gonna
about to
find
find
out
out.
tonight. The other thing we have got on the screen, for those who can see it, and I know it's potentially small text or logos, a couple of bolters. So I asked you to choose your two bolters for the season. Who do you think's moving up the ladder? And you chose Sydney and Richmond.
Which
and
I know
I've-
you don't approve of. But
well, I think Sydney have potential. Richmond have got the best player in the league, so
Monique
Mon
Conti.
Conti. If a couple of the girls around her can come good this year, I think they're a chance. But I've put the Hawks in there. Emma Bates as captain. We've picked up a couple of new players that are going to debut this weekend that I think are going to have an impact. And I think West Coast with
Daisy Pearce.
Daisy, you can't go past the impact she's going to have. I
Yeah.
think she's propelling them. I think they won 2 games last year, and they're going to double that at least. And it wouldn't be surprising if they were either at, the back of the 8 or maybe just outside the 8,
Yeah.
I think.
No, I think Sydney and Richmond obviously got 2 of the best players, Monique Conti and Chloe Malloy. I just think, especially Richmond, I reckon that one player can't carry a team, especially in AFL. Massive
Well,
ground,
we saw
massive
that
team.
because Mon Conti was the best and her team was horrible.
Well, she's been the best for a few years now. But I just think that they've got other young players. I know Sydney are the youngest team. It is a very brave shout by me. They're the youngest and most inexperienced team in the league. But after their breakout season last year, I think they'll stay up there. And I think Chloe Malloy leading that team,
Yeah.
I think they're a good shout.
I liked their brand, and what I did like too is a bit like Sydney's AFL team. They're sort of out of the spotlight a bit.
Yeah.
So I was saying earlier that West Coast, I think, has avoided that scrutiny historically because everyone's watching Carlton and Collingwood and the big clubs
No one
here, and they
cares
haven't
about Western Australia.
Well, and they haven't done well. So everyone's like, well, why aren't Collingwood doing well in the women's, league? And they'd won a flag and stuff. So there was more, it was amplified probably.
Yeah.
But I think with Daisy at the helm now, there's a bit more pressure and there'll be scrutiny. So
100%. Another reason why I think she shouldn't be coaching the men's next year.
we're not going back to that, Alice.
Okay, sorry.
We are going to wrap it up for today. And what I did want to say before we finish up is the listeners last week came back with some feedback.
Oh, did
They
now?
wanted me to turn up with some bling. They
And you
noticed
didn't.
had. Well, and where's your bling?
Okay, well, it's a bit deceiving. It's still there. I don't take it off.
We need a bit of a point of difference for our podcast. So I'm going to think about some bling.
Well, you said last week you would get some and you didn't.
I didn't
Let the
deliver, but I
team
delivered a
down.
new shirt, which is
Okay,
probably better.
well, all right.
But in the meantime, we want to hear from you. So if you are watching, and I know there are a few of you because I saw the numbers. What do you want us to talk
about? Stats.
What do you want us to talk about? What are some of the stories that maybe we don't or you've heard of that we haven't mentioned that you think the listeners would like? What are the hot topics you want us to debate? What do you want Alice and I to go toe-to-toe on? Because I will always win,
No, that's just because you think you're right.
but we're willing to debate and we want to talk women's sport. You guys love it. We love it.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in. Well done to you, Caro.
No, it's not sticking. I'm not getting it.
Already excited about next week, mate. Have a good weekend.
I might not be here next week if you continue calling me that.
You'll be here. And I look forward to it. And thanks for tuning in, guys.
Yeah, thank you all.